I noticed, I see you watching me. The way you blushing now, you got me pondering, yeah. I know you thinking of coming home with me. Sexy body calling on me. Girl, I'm digging the way that you roll, the way that you roll, the way that you roll. We synchronizing, baby, take it slow. Take it slow, baby, let it flow. Feeling my boom, feeling my boom. Feel more, feel more. Feeling my boom, feeling my boom. Now let it go, now let it go. Feeling my boom, feeling my boom. Sexy mommy, I got sweat. Oh, more you bad, you bad, you bad, you bad. Yeah. I'm a rocky steady girl, oh my love, I'll make you sweat. Girl, if you're ready, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates and business around the globe on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
Independent television.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Africa Independent Television.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for joining us on Kaakaki on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I am Adora Onyeche. Good morning.
I'm Sanamir Shemohai. A very good morning to you, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the show. It also happens to be the third day of mourning declared by the federal government. Good morning.
Well, a lot has been in the news about the dynamic speculations and, back and forth. Only yesterday we heard that, they were passing, a motion in the House that, all Dana airlines should be suspended for as much as the investigations are going through till all of this is sorted out.
In fact, that the license should or has been withdrawn until, like you said, all of this is sorted out. Although another news making the rounds early yesterday afternoon was there was a news that people, it was on the net that one of the reasons the plane couldn't land on Sunday was because the presidential jet was in the airport, and it was the area was condoned off for about 2 hours. But the presidency came out yesterday and said that was not true. That story was refuted, and they went on to say that the First Lady didn't travel to Lagos at all on Sunday.
Okay. Okay, all right. Well, just in case you're still drowsy with sleep, let's jazz you up with this story from Ekiti State, southwest Nigeria.
Indeed. Yes, over 18,000 teachers in Ekiti State government secondary schools were slated to sit for the state's Teachers Development Needs Assessment test on Monday, but not one of them showed up for the test.
What was that?
Do you think that happened?
That sounds like somebody played April Fool or June Fool on them, because I'm wondering, something that would actually help, nobody showed up. Does it mean that they're trying to tell the government?
You know what I think, Adora? I think that probably a lot of them are not qualified, and they know the result of that. No, but it's true, Adora. We've seen, even teachers, during go to NCE, to all this, you find even teachers who forged certificates, who claimed to have graduated, forged results and got a job based on false, qualification. And probably that is one of the reasons why the Ekiti State government decided to do the test. Well, we don't know the reason yet. Let me not jump into conclusion.
That's the last point of view. Like she will always be. She raises the bar. So teachers had complained that the test was a ploy by the state government to sack some of the teachers or demote them, you see. But it was not that fear of being marked down in the examination in order to provide justification for sacking or demoting some of the teachers that caused the mass boycott of the test.
Okay, so you see, I was wrong. The teachers alleged that the 39 examination centers had been laced with ammonium. Wow, with ammonium, a deadly voodoo that makes the victim silly and forgetful. So failure. Amunimuye, yes. Amunimuye, that. Okay, let me try translate it into English. It's a Yoruba word to say, okay, something, a voodoo or a magic power that captures you and takes away your memory.
Hypnosis.
Thank you. Well, it's like an hypnosis. The difference is just that you don't understand anything going on around you, and if you were brilliant before that,
you'll be dumb.
You become a very dull person. Anyway, so failure was already predetermined by the state government. Why? Why would they think that?
It's funny. I hear certain things and I laugh. First is the red cap. Nobody wears a red cap. Wear the red cap, and what happens to you? You get
the OGT cap.
The OGT cap. And so on. Monday, none of the 18,000 teachers showed up at the examination centers because of amunimui.
Adora, if teachers can fall for such a story on the efficacy of voodoo, you can then understand why our society will hardly grow out of superstition.
Trust me.
Teachers are supposed to kind of tell students, oh, stop it. This doesn't exist. Why are you believing such things? It is teachers themselves who've come out to say, you know what, your voodoo and your juju will not catch us this time. And well,
there's so many superstitions in Africa. There was one that you see somebody touch you with the head of a broom or the tip and say, don't touch me, touch it on the ground. Why? Because I'll die tomorrow. It's not good in my culture.
You don't beat a child with a broom. You only beat witches with the broom. With the broom, it means that when you beat a child, if it's a male child, it may become impotent.
Are you serious?
Oh, you haven't heard that one. the truth be told, you can't take Africans away from superstition. It's going to be very difficult.
So the worst case scenario is in Tanzania, where they kill albinos because they feel that the Albanian blood enriches and empowers people, and so they have a lot of lots of cases of kidnapping of albinos. But it's sad. I think that 21st century and counting, and we're still in that era.
We should have come to the point where you can distinguish what is real and what is not. So if, based on life experiences, you still cannot tell the difference between myth and between reality, well, there's so much I can say.
Some people are still bound by culture, like I'll just put it at that. Well, let's leave the Ekiti voodoo teachers to their superstition and turn to Benue State, where the legal tussle over the last governorship election is yet to be resolved.
Yes, Dora, the Supreme Court will, on Friday, June 8th, give ruling in an appeal filed by Professor Steve Ugba, candidate of the Action Congress of Nigeria, in that election against Governor Gabriel Suswan's victory at the election tribunal.
So now the intriguing issue that the Supreme Court already says that it is, of course, hands are tied, because Section 285 of the 1999 Constitution pegs a time frame of 180 days within which governorship election matters must be determined and addressed.
I remember we discussed this issue, and the possibility of justice in this situation is very, very high. What was meant to be an advantage has kind of become like a disadvantage for many. Trust lawyers will always find a way to make things work in your favor. And the 180 days have elapsed. So what does any discerning person expect to hear on Friday, especially as many other cases have already been thrown out based on there being time barred electoral petitions, time barred election cases. This is one of the problems, 180 days, and of course, the plaintiffs will go ahead and waste as much time as they need to until that 180 days elapse. Until, of course, once it elapses, you can't even go to the Supreme Court or to appeal that. That is the end of that case.
You know what, really, I see a lot of Nigeria has lost its sense of jurisprudence. But apart from that, somebody says we have now an adjournment system in courts, and we no longer have a justice system, and this could actually be the reasons. Well, you remember that in one edition of the show we raised the question if the effort to speedily determine election petition cases by putting a time frame is not undermining justice.
Yes, so there are many litigants, especially those already in office, deploy all tricks in the judicial process to cause the cases to be prolonged until they exceed the period within which they can be heard.
Well, it has now become a matter of a solution turning into a problem, because as Nigeria sorts out that judicial challenge, south Sudanese authorities seem incapable of sorting out the corruption challenge confronting the new nation.
I just can't understand why every other African country is faced with the same corruption challenge.
Is it an African problem? But let's be realistic. Let's just try.
Is it an African problem? That's the question you ask, Adora.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but trust me, I believe
it's more conversant.
Yes, that it's more conversant in Africa. It's not an African problem, and I also even think that the West has not made it any easier. Their involvement, one way or another, in issues concerning Africa has been, some would say, has been self-centered and selfish. Some argue that the truth is they don't want the best for Africa, because they know that the might of Africa, with the enormous resources that Africa possesses, whether in terms of population and in terms of material resources and natural resources, is enormous. And if Africa can come to grasp and understand the power that is lying within their grips, then of course the West has a reason to be shaken.
Yes, somebody would say that, if Africa was a body and the body was corruption, then the varicose veins would have some Western elements. The varicose veins will be made of Western elements. It is quite absurd to think that, but some people would argue that. Well, the case of South Sudan has gotten so bad that the government can no longer meet basic obligations like payment of workers' salaries and servicing of minor lines of credit for imported items.
And how the South Sudanese President Salva Kiir is begging former and serving government officials who have stolen over $4 billion of public funds to return the money. Begging. Well, because for them to return the money, they must first agree that indeed they stole.
Yes.
And I don't think they will want to agree that.
Imagine anybody come out and say, we stole.
Okay, I stole. Now I'm returning it. Well, I wish Kiir
I stole the money, take me to prison. I'm willing. That will be the day. Well, to tell you how desperate the situation is, President Salva Kiir says any official who returns his loot will not be persecuted.
Well, that's an encouraging.
Sounds too good to be true.
But it's possible. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Although it is an irony that independence for South Sudan has suddenly been turned into an opportunity by a few to steal. And with these massive thefts, all the hope of a vibrant and progressive South Sudan, for which John Gargan paid the supreme price, is fading. What a shame.
What a shame. Well, so now let's still hope that things will improve in South Sudan sooner than later. This Wednesday, we will be looking at the latest developments in the Ghana airline crash. We will be joined this morning by Dr. Harold Demire, Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and Victor Oche, Special Advisor to the Aviation Minister on Technical Matters. But that will be in our second interview. But before that, we will be examining the rash of illegal refineries in Nigeria. And also in today's edition, we'll bring you, as usual, our cover stories, special features, health tips with Dadama, and of course, Sports Extra. Let's just relax and kickstart the show with the world headline news.
Thanks for staying with us. A U.S. drone strike on Monday in Pakistan targeted al-Qaeda's second-in-command, Abu Yahya al-Libi. U.S. officials say it is still unclear whether he was among those killed in the strike on a suspected militant compound in North Waziristan near the Afghan border. Pakistan officials say 2 missiles by the unmanned aircraft killed 15 people. Pakistan's foreign ministry strongly condemned the strike, calling it illegal. A senior U.S. official said that Libya was the target of Monday's morning strike in Hesukel, to the east of Miranshah, the capital of North Waziristan. U.S. officials say if Libya's death is confirmed, it will be a major blow to the core of al-Qaeda. Following Osama bin Laden's death last year, Libya, an Islamic scholar from Libya, became al-Qaeda's second-in-command after Egyptian-born Ayman al-Zawahiri. Libya is reportedly in charge of day-to-day operations in Pakistan's tribal areas. Libya was reported killed in a drone strike in Pakistan in 2009, but it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. Russian President Vladimir Putin is beginning a 3-day visit to China, with energy and foreign policy expected to dominate the agenda. Putin said ahead of the trip that he wanted to further boost booming bilateral trade, which reached $84 billion last year. The Syrian crisis is also expected to be discussed during the talks. Russia and China have resisted Western pressure to move President Bashar al-Assad from power and ongoing unrest. China's envoy to the UN, Li Baodong, has described Syria as one of the most pressing issues on the agenda of the Security Council. Beijing currently holds the Council's rotating presidency, and Li urged all parties to immediately implement the peace plan of UN envoy Kofi Annan. The Queen of England has taken part in a service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral on the final day of her Diamond Jubilee celebrations. The day will end with a glittering carriage procession and wreath fly past. The Queen's consort was absent from her side as she entered the cathedral. Prince Philip remains in hospital with a bladder infection. In her sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury paid tribute to the Queen's lifelong dedication. On Monday, the Queen recorded a message of thanks for the nation's support ahead of a star-studded concert at Buckingham Palace. The 2-minute message filmed in her private apartment at the palace was broadcast at 6 p.m. local time on radio and television in the UK and across the Commonwealth. NATO signed deals with Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan to use their territory for evacuating vehicles and military equipment from Afghanistan. The agreement will allow the military alliance to bypass Pakistan, which has blocked NATO from using its territory in a disagreement over drone strikes. NATO will begin pulling troops and equipment out of Afghanistan in earnest later this year. This deal means it can return equipment to Europe overland via Russia. NATO Secretary General Anders Rasmussen announced the Central Asian deals on Monday. He told a press conference these agreements will give US a range of new options and a robust and flexible transport network we need. The US-led NATO operation in Afghanistan is due to wind down completely by the end of 2014. Tens of thousands of vehicles, containers and arms will have to leave them. The force has already started pulling out some equipment. Former government of France says it is optimistic that Nigeria will achieve her target of being one of the 20 largest world economies by 2020. The country's ambassador to Nigeria told newsmen at an event to mark 70 years of French International Development Agency in Abuja that his country will support Nigeria to develop her economy. 4 more bodies were recovered Tuesday from the site of the Ghana plane crash in Iju area of Lagos, bringing the figure to 154. Also on Tuesday, demolition of the buildings affected by the crash began as property owners put their losses at hundreds of millions of naira. Former Governor Timothy Silva has been arraigned before the Federal High Court in Abuja on a 6-count charge. The court ordered Silva to be remanded in EFCC custody till Thursday, June 7, when it will rule on his bail application. Silva, who has been under the EFCC trail since his ouster from office in April, pleaded not guilty to 6 counts charged bordering on corruption committed while serving as governor of Bayelsa State. Unknown gunmen have shot and killed retired Deputy Inspector General of Police Abubakar Sali Ningi in Kano. Reports say the retired police boss was shot and killed in a Hilux van by men on a speeding motorcycle. All the occupants of the van, including Ningi's driver Audley and a friend, were killed in the attack. DIG Ningi retired only in January after the appointment of Mohammed Abubakar as acting Inspector General of Police. Until his retirement, Ningi was DIG Works Department of the Police Headquarters in Abuja. We pray that his soul rest in peace, perfect. That's the news headline. Kaakaki, the African Voice, continues in a moment. When we come back, time for our cover story for the day.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
Midweek edition of the show also happens to be the third day of mourning for those dearly departed who died during the plane crash in Lagos. But it's time now for our cover story for the day. Adora is standing right by to take us through the cover story. Adora.
All right, now, Sanami, which part, or rather, what coastal part of Nigeria has the most water and rain? Guess, roughly.
I'll vote Lagos.
Nah, you peeped into my script.
Nah. Why
right,
Lagos?
You're very, maybe because you're from Badagry, so
exactly.
you're used to water.
I'm used to water from that
Definitely.
end.
Well, I'm sure you would agree with me that Lagos, the economic center of Nigeria, is no stranger to water, being an island. But in recent times, residents of Lagos have begun to dread the rainy seasons, and this stems from the flooding usually experienced by residents, especially in the slums. With clogged drainages and blocked canals, the flooding worsens with each rainy season. Well, in this special report, AIT's Nkoli Omonhodu sketches the experiences of Lagosians and how government agencies are raising the red flag as the rains intensify. Let's see.
No customer at all. When the road is spoiled, nothing. They cannot enter this road at all, unless I go to their house or I phone them, so can see customer. Sometimes I will stay house. I will not come to work.
Roslyn Okoyomo, a seamstress who lives in Mile 12, one of the flood-prone areas of Lagos. Roslyn dreads the rainy season because even her livelihood is threatened when the rains come pouring. This is the story of many other residents of flood-prone communities in Lagos. Ajegule Owode community in Ikorodu area is one of such communities. All was swept away by massive flooding during last year's rainy season. Many houses were submerged, while properties worth millions of naira were destroyed. Over 1,000 people were displaced in the disaster.
The devastation came in spite of the early warning signal given by the Lagos State government asking residents to relocate to higher grounds. While some of them heeded the advice, many of them didn't. Those who did not heed the advice to relocate will not forget in a hurry the massive flooding that swept the entire community.
This year, the state government has issued yet another alert, this time to even more communities sitting on floodplains.
This is Mile 12 area in Lagos, one of the many communities in the current list of the Lagos State government that are susceptible to flooding. A visit to some other areas revealed non-existence of drainage channels, and even in places where they exist, they are silted up and filled up with all kinds of refuse.
Other communities on the flood danger list are Owode Oniri, Owode Elede, Thomas Laniyo, and Agility. The rains are yet to descend fully, but this woman is already sporting rain boots.
Some of the Badagry area, Okeagbo, has now been added to our list. So as far as we are concerned, they are no longer there, because adequate provision has been made for them somewhere else, near Agbowa, that they should move to. And even Lagos State government is going to the extent of even providing all necessary infrastructure into the place.
The flood alert comes from the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, which forecasts a longer than normal rainy season, which may worsen the prospect of coastal flooding and erosion in the country. NIMET puts the seasonal rainfall at between 300 to 1,100 millimeters in the north and 1,200 to 2,700 millimeters in the south.
This year you expected to have flash floods, especially the coastal areas. And during these flash floods, at the peak of the rainy season, people are expected to be cautious. They are going to have normal rainfall in the southern part of the country, extending to longer than normal, especially in the northern part of the country.
Worried by this prediction, the state government is putting measures in place to avert any eventuality, one of which is the call on those in the affected communities to relocate within the months of June to September and October to January. They also want residents to keep all flood channels clear of solid waste.
What we realized is just 2/3 of what the prediction is this year. So you can now see the gravity of what is going to be based on our analysis. And that was why we have to cry out early so that we won't have such crisis that we had last year.
Some environment experts commend the state government's proactive measure, but say government should do more to help the people.
We all know that in Lagos State, it is not very easy, first of all, to get accommodation, even if you are willing to live where you're staying. I thought the government owe the people of Lagos State that duty, that if they are giving them a lot, they should also assist them to relocate.
Lagos State government really needs to go all out and not just warn the people, but to take the immediate mitigation measures, because there are certain things that can be done, like deep channelization, clearing channels that are there, and knowing where the floods were last year, and taking the necessary measures to protect their people. This is the role of governance.
You go to the Caribbean, you see what they're making of their beaches. That's not what we're making off of our own beaches here. They're being washed away by abandoned shipwrecks. So government needs to be proactive to make sure that no ship is abandoned. And once the ship runs aground, it is removed as soon as possible, not left to corrode or erode our shorelines.
Residents of the affected communities are not unaware of the consequences of flooding, but they want government's assistance in dealing with the situation.
Yes, we are aware. Last year they issued an alert. Last year, even there are some Lagos environmental that came around here. But this area we are, there's no during the rain we used to have rainfall water on the land, but the flood does not affect us here.
It's okay that they are telling us to be at alert. You understand? Because the last time it happened, it affected one of my friends in Ajegule, and in fact she moved out. But for me, I just moved in here in December.
Awareness is good on part of Lagos State, but that's not enough. When you create the awareness, how will you back up that awareness? For people to cope up.
We just pray that people will take heed of the warning and be careful where you build your house. Don't build your house on a floodplain, otherwise you're going to get flooded.
Structures built on floodplains or along drain alignments, refuse-clogged drains, as well as climate change are some factors that lead to flood disasters in most parts of the world.
That wasn't a pretty sight at all. Did you see that woman had, even though it wasn't raining, there was water up to her knees, and
yes.
like Nkoli said, there you have a situation where floods are caused by clogged water
drainages and
clogged drainages. Well, climate change has its own part to play, and of course lack of planning by the government.
Yes, and I also think that, you know, not only Lagos, even Port Harcourt, you know, and some other places as well. But Lagos is a focus because, you know, we have a lot of beaches and, you know, islands. And what really worries me, now let's look at climate change. Yesterday was World Environmental Day. Some people might not know, you know, what climate change is, because if some people knew, they would be able to prepare for it. You know, and another thing is for the government to understand that it is their duty to actually put these things in place, you know, especially to poor communities. And because if you look at it, most of the communities are linked to the bigger urban centers, and so it is necessary to actually find drainages that really work, and of course make the people understand that it's up to them not to block them all up.
Yeah, you know, like Nkoli did say, one of the respondents was saying that she was grateful to the Lagos State government for letting them know what and how to do to avert rain. And of course, one of the major things to do, you know, is to make sure that you don't build your houses where it's prone to flood. Because definitely when you build your house around a floody area, you know, and not probably have a very good and strong foundation, or raise the foundation higher than normal, then of course, you can expect that when the rains come, your house is going to be flooded. But fortunately, the Lagos State government is preparing for the rains, unlike last year, you know, where they, of course, you know that a lot of people died, you know, and all of that all around Lagos. Fortunately, this time they're being proactive in preventing such.
Well, now another thing you would look at is that most of the people that buy lands and build in these places because of the costs, you know, and most of those areas seem to be cheaper, more affordable, and because of that, they prefer to actually at the cost of building there. And that's my question exactly. You know, when you look at it, you find out that okay, the economy might not also be helpful because of lack of employment. People are managing, the society is just trudging on, and you can't really blame anybody for that. But still, like you say, health is first, then wealth.
Yes, health indeed is first, because if you know that this place is prone to flood and you build, year in, year out, you have to carry all of your property on your head. Definitely. But you wish you didn't build. You know, but then again, just like you said, Adora, a lot of times people keep saying that residents, you know, everywhere keep saying government has to do this, government has to do that, and all of that, and they forget what they must do. You know, as the rains have come, as usual, driving down the streets were clustered with dirt because, of course, the rain washed out all the dirt that people
from
have
the drainages,
in the drainages. So what is your own role? Maybe you should begin from there and play your role to avert flooding in your area. All right. I think we have another special feature.
Go for it.
In the face of climate change, natural disasters such as flooding, windstorms and earthquakes have been on the increase. Kano State, northwest Nigeria, is one of the states affected by flooding. In this special report, AIT's Oga examines how flooding is taking its toll on lives and properties.
Before now, desert encroachment and deforestation have been environmental challenges that are peculiar to all the northern states of Nigeria. Most recently, however, flooding has ravaged parts of northern Nigeria, thus taking its toll on the resources of local, state, and perhaps the federal government. Kano in northwest Nigeria may perhaps pass for states worst hit by flood in recent times.
The water was really disturbing our people, not even now, since we even called for the government to assist. We have loss of lives and at the same time loss of property.
In 2010, the people of Gezawa, Haye and Kunkurawa community in Dawa Kinkudu local council witnessed flood and windstorm which destroyed properties and washed away farmlands and residential areas.
The only thing the government can do is to immediately try to look at the drainage system within the city, and then try to reactivate all of them.
Only a fortnight ago, Kano Metropolis, which poses itself as the commercial nerve center of northern Nigeria, was almost washed away as the flood in Fege local government was unprecedented. It was a heavy rain in Kano which has left behind a gruesome tale of devastation, including the death of some children. The number of deaths as a result of this flood is not only conflicting, but has remained a major source of controversy. Several lives were lost and properties valued at millions of naira were destroyed. As it's usually the case in most urban cities of the world, poor construction of houses, lack of good drainages, and indiscriminate dumping of refuse, as well as building on waterways, have been blamed on Kano flood.
The problem is again is you know, our people, is a habit of our people. We don't have a dumping site in Pagi. So the habit is whenever they get their rubbish, they just go and dump it inside the drainage, which is not good. So that is the first. And most of the people, they encroach the drainage. Now we are working on it both sides.
Even with the prediction by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, that there would be heavy amount of rainfall in 2011, one would have assumed that the Kano State government would take on proactive measures to check the impending calamity.
So when it is falling, it is accompanied by what we call downdrafts. downward velocity of wind that is very strong, and that is what causes destruction most of the time. Then the amount of rainfall itself will now lead to flooding.
I can't say we are taken unaware, so we have taken action now.
Very often, victims of these environmental problems are left counting their losses. Besides the displacement of persons, loss of lives and properties, flooding also worsen incidents of food insecurity, especially in areas of low rainfall like northern Nigeria.
Farmers are already crying because you see the whole area is drying up. They tell you that what they saw some 30, 40 years ago is not what they are seeing now. You see them now, they say that most of their children are even living. Those are helping them.
Suffice to say that Kano State government, through its emergency response agency, was quick in dispatching areas for victims. Who came calling.
A lot of philanthropists, they help a lot by giving them some of their houses. And in fact, if you can go there, you can see most of them are sharing the same houses with other people that are not affected.
But the question, however, remains, can the relief materials cater squarely for the livelihood of victims?
a gidajen da zaka je ka samu gida na haya a 25,000 sai daga 30 abu ne haya ta 20,000 hayar ma ta daga ta zama la haulo na kotu kuma gashi lokacin damuna kuma sai rasa yadda za su sa kansu kuma taimakon ma gaba daya waɗansu ma ba a basu ba.
Maybe it should be expected that as the World Bank steps in to treatment of environmental disasters in African countries, vulnerable northern states of Nigeria will brace up by putting in place proactive measures to check the challenge posed by flooding.
Well, you've seen what that can do to in Kano, considering that is the or like the metropolitan city of the north.
Well, of course, like Olga said there, one of the major reasons why flooding has devastating effects in Kano is because a lot of times buildings are not built properly, properly to the appropriate standard, and this effect, of course, makes it very easy for floods to have its toll on the people whenever it comes. That notwithstanding, the same issues we raised earlier, indiscriminate dumping of refuse and all of that, and general cleanliness and maintaining a tidy and clean environment will also help a great deal. And of course, not to say that the role of the government is to make sure that there are drainages that can channel this water out of residential areas into the lagoon, into wherever
so now you're moving in Kano, talking about residential areas. I know we do have, but I think most of those problems are faced by the people of the community. If you look at that flood, if you saw that dilapidated building, you would see that it was where most of the suburbs lived. And what worries me is that Kano too has grazing areas, and what is the potential livelihood for the people who are headsmen, and with that actually also causes them to migrate from one place to another. And I also think that they should also be aware that they have the responsibility to actually keep the environment clean, because a lot of them are probably petty traders who just at the end of every night shift, everything that is left that is not used is discarded. But like we say, the government should come in, especially in the Kano State region. I think it's about time to actually tell them that buildings that are not up to par will definitely cause.
Indeed, it is about time. Again, everyone has a role to play, so we should start by playing off.
Well, it's now time to bring you E-Tips, your regular entertainment segment on Kaakaki B, African Voice. But in today's package, we serve you gist about celebrities both locally and internationally. AIT's Afam brings you all the details.
This is your boy Godons, a.k.a. the comedy Berlusconi. Me, myself, and I'm in Abuja to take breeze, making for no brick quarter. But I've heard a lot of people say that they don't trust anybody. These are the same people who don't trust anybody. These are the same set of people who will go and fly airplane. You trust nobody, and yet you believe that the pilot is trustworthy enough to take you from one point A to point B.
The comedian, famously referred to as Comedy Berlusconi,
ETIPS confirms Gordon has been thanking God for sparing his life on Sunday, June 3, 2012. In a phone chat with ETIPS, Gordon says, and we quote, "If you see Jesus, I beg, help me thank Amu." Gordon says he needed to perform in a show in Lagos on Sunday afternoon, but inevitably got late to the airport. At the airport, he got into a heated argument with an airport tout who couldn't get him a Dana Air ticket, which he didn't mind paying any cost to get. Not being able to get a Dana Air ticket, the tout managed to get an Aero ticket to the utter dismay of the comedy Berlusconi. He got to Lagos very late and halfway into the show, but has remained alive to give God thanks and praises.
As I come here before you, I will talk about Matia. I don't go use any super cover. Call me the malam and I know you understand. I'm like, you go to stress and sound, no they use for that farm. I know, always be sleep, do it very nicely. Always like to walk, I know.
We move on now to a story that newly wedded innocent Uja Idibia, popularly called Two-Face, turned pastor in Ibadan while performing on a Star Trek stage on May 25, 2012. The concert was held at Adamashingba Stadium. While thrilling audience, the singer went into a trance of sorts, praying and prophesying, telling his fans, "We shall be blessed. I see a greater future. Receive it," he told them, filling his set with motivation and inspiration. After his touching session, he then used his songs to arouse his audience spirit, calling for solidarity actions towards the present situation in the country. For instance, and One Love were his favorite songs of the night, as he boldly modified the lyrics, inserting conspicuous political messages that spoke directly to government officials. The crowd watched and listened in absolute silence. At the end of Idibia's performance, the audience could not but remain standing for minutes, and it took many some time before regaining their consciousness. "Pastor Idibia, you too much, oh!" On the foreign scene, we can tell you that 20-year-old student Olivia Kopo has beaten 50 others to be crowned the winner of the 2012 edition of the Miss USA Beauty pageant. Kopo, who represented the tiny state of Rhode Island, won the competition on Sunday, June 3, 2012 in Las Vegas. The Boston University student will take a year off from her studies to tackle her duties as Miss USA and represent the country in the 64th Miss Universe contest in December. As for her win, the model said, "I was just so surprised, so shocked, so honored to be there."
Don't know about you, handsome. Most people wanna hold me for ransom. This collect all up in my mansion. African mother Jackson.
Now, popular Nigerian entertainer Dapo Oyebanjo, otherwise known as the Banj, has debunked rumors of his death. The 32-year-old star took to his Twitter account yesterday to make the announcement, saying, "Please ignore the nonsense rumor. I am very much alive and well. Thanks be to God. Thank you for all your concern." Rumors has been making the round that the Oliver Twist singer was shot by 3 unknown gunmen on his way from the Atlanta residence of his good music boss, Kanye West, after which he was rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital, where he died some minutes later after a result of complications from gunshot wounds. We round up today's edition of E-Tips with the gist from Charlie Boy Boulevard, Gwarimpa, Abuja. Ace entertainer and humanitarian Charles Oputa, popularly referred to as Charlie Boy or Area Father, has come out strongly to deny reports published in the National Mirror, a Nigerian daily, that not only was he gay, he was also the head of the Illuminati in Nigeria. The Ace entertainer aims to go to court to get the record sane and straight. In a recent phone chat with E-Tips, the Area Father says, and we quote, "My sexuality and spirituality have never been in doubt, but I will allow people to speculate anything about me so long as it makes them happy. He goes further to say that his concern is about the state of things in the country and about the Nigerian youth who are constantly trapped in the saga of unemployment. He says he's concerned about the hopelessness of the Nigerian child and how things keep sinking. He wraps up with a prayer saying that one day things will get better. And with that, we say bye-bye on ETIPS. Catch us on Friday.
Well, when it comes to Charleboy, anything is sayable because, first of all, the looks are very deceptive. I must say, exactly. He makes it easy for people to believe anything about him. And, well, he's being dear to a lot of people's hearts. And, so he just leaves it at that, just like, they said on ETIPS. He just says, all right, you know what, leave it. Whatever you want to say, it's your business as long as you don't defame my character as a person. Definitely. But one thing I do applaud Charleboy for is that he is a humanitarian and a philanthropist and has the youth at heart. So for starters, I think we should commend him on that before any other thing, as is fondly called. Anyway, that was ETIPS. We do hope that you enjoyed it. I did. I'm grateful to God for the bench, that the rumors are live, and I'm also thankful to God for Godons. All right, time now to go to the streets. It's time to hit the streets for People's Parliament. In today's package, Oluchi Achigbu asked our street parliamentarians what the effect of the many illegal refineries in Nigeria can be on the nation's economy. Let's join Oluchi on the streets.
And welcome to People's Parliament. I am Oluchi Achigbu. Crude oil is no doubt the mainstay of Nigeria's economy as it contributes the bulk of the nation's overall revenue. However, theft of crude oil, commonly known as black gold, is on the rise, with the result that illegal refineries now litter several discrete locations in the creeks of the Niger Delta region in the country. What are the implications of the existence of these illegal refineries for Nigeria's economy? This is our focus today as we seek the views of our parliamentarians.
Well, the first and foremost is it's illegal to have the refineries that are not licensed by government, basically because the oil industry is a monopoly of the government. Now, the implications are that we do not have enough refined products to go around the country to meet the demand. So if there's no demand, there's no supply enough to meet the demand, that means there will be the need to meet up this demand through the black market or through the underground refining system. Secondly, the lack of adequate refineries by the government, or in this instance where we're looking at the giving of licenses to private refining companies to refine our petroleum products, has led to these illegal things coming up. The economic implication is the government loses revenue. The domestic supply system is starved of adequate products.
There are serious fundamental problems with illegal refineries going on now in the country. One is making government lose revenue. Second, you are creating, a gang of official criminals that have been known even by the authority. In other words, they are doing this thing with impunity because they have access to states, resources. And this is also affecting the development because the revenue that would have gone to the government now is going to individuals. And that is why you see there's, a lot of conflicts within the communities that this oil are being taken.
We do not have illegal refinery in Nigeria. What we have, you can call it illegal refining of petroleum products.
What we call illegal refineries, yes, it is criminal indeed to have this kind of refineries. The petroleum that we get, maybe they get it from whatever means, that is the crude. It takes just boiling up to 94 degrees Fahrenheit for
for the crude to get refined. Okay. Once that one is done, the rest, which ordinarily will come out as other byproducts of petroleum, will be thrown away.
Well, I think the issue of the illegal refineries aptly epitomizes the contradiction that the Nigerian state has become. You know, a situation where we cannot produce enough refined petroleum products for our citizenry, and yet we have the capacity, the citizens have shown the capacity to produce these refined products. I think it tells a lot of story, of what we have become because of the illegal bunkering and some of these so-called illegal activities. We lose a lot of barrels of crude oil, and also it comes also with a lot of ecological, environmental devastations. These are some of the consequences. But then looking at the way forward, we need to have proper regulation. The industry should be properly regulated.
Well, we've heard the views of our parliamentarians, and this is where we end it today on People's Parliament. I am Oluchi Achibu, taking you back to the studio for more on the package.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well,
different strokes, different folks, as I always say. Well, I don't think we have much to banter there because I think that will come up much later in the interview, so let's leave that to rest. But right now, I have a beautiful South African lookalike Belle standing by to take us on health this morning. Good morning, Adora.
Morning, Adora and Senami, and both of you look really lovely. Thank you. Adora, this hot guy yesterday said to me, "Oh, I think Adora is so cute. I love her beautiful gowns and all that." Really hot. Okay, good morning. Now that I've succeeded in making Adora blush, let me focus my attention on you. I hope you had a good night rest, and I hope you are ready to listen to me talk about smoking versus your beauty. Especially for women, please pay close attention. Maybe there is no fountain of youth out there, but there is a surefire way to make yourself look a lot older, and that is smoking. Smoking changes the skin, the teeth, and hair in ways that you can add years to your looks. It also affects everything from your fertility to the strength of your heart, lungs, and bones. Research recently carried out on identical twins was very revealing. Twin B, who smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day for 14 years, while her sister never smoked at all. Now, the one who smoked had loose skin under her eyes, which is typical for smokers, and it's one of the several visible signs showing that tobacco byproducts inside your body are harming your appearance. Now, Twin B also got more sun in addition to smoking, damaging her skin from the outside as well. Now, smoking chronically deprives the skin of oxygen and nutrients, so some smokers appear pale while others develop uneven coloring, and these changes can begin at a young age. In young non-smokers, you won't usually see a lot of uneven skin tone, but this develops more quickly in people who smoke. You have sagging skin. There are more than 4,000 chemicals in tobacco smoke, and many of them trigger the destruction of collagen and elastin. Now, these two things are the fibers that give your skin its strength and elasticity. Now, smoking or even being around secondhand smoke degrades the building blocks of the skin. The consequences include sagging skin and deeper wrinkles, sagging arms and breasts as well. Because smoking doesn't only damage the appearance of your face, it can also take a toll on your figure as well. As skin loses its elasticity, parts that were once firm may begin to droop, and this includes the inner arms in here will be drooping, and of course your breast will go down to your navel. And researchers have identified smoking as a top cause of sagging breasts and lines around the lips. I have lines there. Now, smoking develops a 1-2 punch to the area around your mouth. First, you have the smoker's pucker, because you have to smoke like this. Now, smokers use certain muscles around their lips that cause them to have dynamic wrinkles that non-smokers do not have. Second, you have the loss of elasticity as well around your lips. So together, these factors can lead to deep lines around the lips. Now, let's look at age spots. Age spots are blotches of darker skin color that are common on the face and hands. While anyone can develop these spots from spending too much time in the sun, research suggests that smokers are more susceptible to things like, okay, this came a bit Ellie, could you take off that? It's not time, and just wait for me. Thank you much. Now, let's talk about damaged gums and teeth. Yellow teeth are one of the most, yes, now you can bring on the photo of the teeth. The teeth, please. Yellow teeth are one of the most notorious effects of long-term smoking, but the dental damage doesn't stop there. People who smoke tend to develop gum disease, like you see in there. You see how horrible that teeth looks, and that's how your teeth could look if you smoke. Now, it could also give you persistent bad breath and other oral hygiene problems. Smokers are twice as likely to lose teeth as non-smokers. You also have stained fingers. Thank you much. Okay, stained fingers. Now, think what's your hand. If you think your hand looks sexy when you smoke, you know, especially when you have red, beautiful polish like mine, and you think it looks really good with a cigarette patch between your fingers. No, you do not. If you have been smoking, sorry about that break, there's something going on there. If you have been smoking for a while, take a good look at your fingernails and the skin of your hands. Tobacco can actually stain the skin and nails as well as the teeth. Now, the good news is that these stains tend to fade when you quit smoking. You can also suffer from hair loss. Both men and women tend to develop thinner hair as they age, and smoking can accelerate this process. Now, some studies have even suggest that people who smoke are more likely to go bald. Now, researchers in Taiwan have identified smoking as a clear risk factor for male pattern baldness in Asian men. So you can lose your hair if you smoke. Now, let's look at the eyes, cataracts. Even the eyes are vulnerable to tobacco's reach. No part of your body is going to escape smoking. Now, smoking makes you more likely to develop cataracts as you age. Now, these are cloudy areas on the lens of the eye that keep light from reaching the retina. Now, if they cause serious vision problems, they are treated with surgery. And there's something else called psoriasis. Now, psoriasis is a chronic condition that most often causes thick, scaly patches on the skin, usually on the knees, elbows, scalp, hands, feet, or back. Now, the patches may be white, red, or silver, and recent studies suggest that smokers have a greater risk of developing psoriasis. Now, let's look at crow's feet, eye, and wrinkles. Everyone gets wrinkles on the outside of the eyes, you know, here. Goes down this way eventually, but these wrinkles develop earlier and go deeper among smokers. Heat from burning cigarettes, you keep squinting to keep the smoke away from your eyes, and in the course of doing that, they contribute to the visible crow's feet all over this place. Now, meanwhile, chemicals from inhaled tobacco cause internal damage to the skin structures and blood vessels around your eyes as well. Now, let's look at how quitting improves your looks. Quitting smoking can improve your appearance. As blood flow gets better, your skin receives more oxygen and nutrients. Now, this can help you develop a healthy complexion. If you stay tobacco-free, the skins on your fingers and nails will disappear. You may even notice your teeth getting whiter as well. So if you want to have white teeth and great smile and cute face and smile like a Dora or like a Dhamma, then you should quit smoking for sure. So let's run away and go to the meal of the day before the wheel starts turning. Meal of the day. Okay, it says, good day, Adama. Please, can hepatitis be contacted through sex? I have contracted it, and I am afraid to tell my wife. Mr. Okay. Mr. Okay, first of all, hepatitis can be contracted through sex and even through sweat. And I will advise you, you need to find the courage to tell your wife, and both of you should go to a hospital so that she can be tested as well, and treatment can be commenced immediately. The only thing I can do for you, Mr. Okay, is to give you some advice or tip on how to tell your wife. You can wear a metal helmet and carry a metal shield. Stay away from her. Make sure you remove all blunt objects and all sharp objects from her reach, because I cannot promise you that you'll come out unhurt. The things you've been doing have finally found you somehow, Mr. Okay. So please tell your wife. I pray for your safety when you tell your wife. But on a serious note, man, I mean, if you're a married man, why would you go around having unprotected sex? Well, the ideal thing, don't go around having sex outside of your marriage. But if you have to, why have unprotected sex and then go through this danger? Well, good luck, Mr. Okay. Good luck and keep me posted if you survive. Ladies,
I pray he does. I wish him all the best as well.
I wish him all the best.
Has a lot to say, but you see the laughter.
What are you talking about? So that means don't commit murder. But I know him.
Thank you, Adamba.
Okay, Adamba, thank you.
Adora, you will be the hot spot next. No problem. Well, the top of the hour and up next is Inside Nigeria. Please stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us. 4 more bodies were recovered Tuesday from the site of the Ghana plane crash in Iju areas of Lagos, bringing the figure to 154. Also on Tuesday, demolition of the buildings affected by the crash began as property owners put their losses at hundreds of millions of naira. AIT's Tokuboye Tunji was there.
From our own count, we have 90 males, 45 females, 10 children, and 9 unidentified bodies.
Okay. Making...
That's a total of 154.
We'll still search through the rubble to pick up the remaining parts and then keep sending them to the morgue like we have been doing. The building is about to be demolished, the building behind us.
4 state governors have joined other Nigerians commiserating with the bereaved families of the victims of the plane crash in Lagos on Sunday. In separate statements, the governors described the death of several people in the air crash as a huge national calamity. The governors are Aliyu Wamaku, Sokoto State, Kayode Fayemi, Ekiti State, Jonah Jag, Plateau State, and Maliu Babangida of Niger State. Sokoto State Governor
the issue of cabin fire has been taken care of and rectified for good, and anything could happen.
But it was said to, sorry to Coach Usha, it was also said to have faulty hydraulics, seeing that it was supposed to land in New York and it was diverted back to Lagos. One would wonder that plane should have been left to go undergo thorough, maintenance check before it was put back on the plane. So why would they risk the life of 100 and something Nigerians still for the sake, of meeting up with profit and time?
You and I may not be able to say the extent of repairs, the extent of checks that had gone on, and that is why it is good and important for us to allow AIB to finish its investigation. Then they will now be able to tell us what Dana employers did with regard to the...
All right, talking about investigations now, management of Dana has come up to say that the investigations is going to take 1 year. First of all, does it have to take that long, 1 year, to determine what happened and why? I do that the black box has been found. Yeah. Also, how long does it take to investigate and see what happened, what information is in the black box and reveal it to people? And how long does it really again have to take 1 year, a whole year, before Dana can come out and say this was exactly what happened with our aircraft?
I don't think so. AIB will certainly give us a temporary report as to what has happened, pending when the complete investigation would have taken place. So it's not going to be 1 year, certainly not.
What about the black box then? How long does it take?
If I will not say for sure. They will have to probably have it flown to America or somewhere where they are going to analyze it and get the information. But it shouldn't take 1 year, that I am very sure. But maybe the final report will take up to that, but the preliminary report will not take as long as that. I can assure you.
A lot of people, have some respite, knowing that the federal government has withdrawn the license of Dana Air. But again, some have said that this is criminal negligence. We don't have facts to that effect, so we're not going to thrive on that. However, if they are found culpable, what should be the punishment that they get?
I think it will still be left to the federal government to make that decision, because at times it could be a deliberate negligence, or on the other hand it could just be a mistake. So it is important for us to allow the full investigation to take place. Then we'll be able to determine, is it deliberate or just negligence.
All right. As a captain again, how did you receive the news of that ill-fated air crash on Sunday?
I was shocked, because when that accident was happening, I was equally in the air, and it dawned on me that it could be me. It could be me. I was in the air. Could have happened to me. Could have happened to any of us. So it's very, very painful. We are grieving, and we pray that God will never allow this to happen again. It is one too many. It is one too many. It's painful and it's sad.
Okay, Captain, over experience and seeing what has happened, history will take us back to Sosoliso airline crash, Bellevue, Loyola District College students that were lost. Now, going by that record, do you think that Nigeria has the technical competence and status to check and certify aircraft in Nigeria?
Yes, I think they have the technical competence, because these accidents are not happening every day, and nobody prays that they should happen every day. In America, there are accidents. All over the world, there are accidents. And many of our engineers are not just trained locally. They go abroad, they acquire this training. And
some of the airlines who have foreigners, expatriates, maintaining their machines and their equipment. I believe we have the technical competence. There might be need for NCA to do more oversight in their work. There could be need for companies to be more safety conscious, but I wouldn't want to say that the engineers and the pilots we have are not competent. And I want to say in this ill-fated Dana crash that the pilot is the captain was an American. It's not a Nigerian. And for many pilots in this country, we go outside to do our refresher training. We go outside to obtain our initial training when it comes to type rating. So it's not about Nigerian standard, it is international standard. These people certified us and said we are qualified, that we can fly. So I want to restore the confidence in every Nigerian that the Nigerian pilots and engineers are competent. We have them all over the world working for different airlines. It's just unfortunate that this has happened, and I pray that God will grant us the fortitude to bear this loss.
Okay, so talking about, you spoke about safety and, of course, safety. I want to bring it back, to the word corruption in the aviation system. Now, it was said that in March there was an averted strike by certain airline staff. In January 2012 also there was a strike by engineers of a certain aircraft. Of course, we dealt with this yesterday. Now, they said that they were asked to certify a plane fit for flying when it wasn't. Now, do you think that that can actually happen in the industry? And if it does, what will be the checks and the balance for such an act not to repeat itself?
It's possible it could happen because investigation has revealed that there are some airlines that cut corners. It is now left to the engineers to put his feet down, knowing that his own very life could be compromised. The lives of his loved ones, friends, colleagues could be compromised. We should not compromise with safety at any time in any situation. It is very long. I believe the Aircraft Association of Nigeria should come together, and the engineers, the pilots should come together and be able to support each other, to stand firm and refuse any form of compromise that will endanger or affect safety in the aviation industry.
Captain, on yesterday actually some reports came out, on the internet, and the president has come out to refute it. But I want to ask you the possibility of that happening. There are reports making the rounds that this Ghana aircraft that crash landed, was distressed for a while and couldn't land because the airspace was closed for 2 hours because the presidential jet, which the First Lady was on ground at the airport at that time. Is it possible to close the airspace for 2 hours before and avoid or prevent any other plane from landing just because the presidential jet is on ground at the time?
I want to say that report is not correct in the sense that the First Lady actually traveled on Saturday and came back on Monday, but the Ghana-affected accident happened on Sunday, so there was no closure of the airspace. Yes, for security reasons, the airspace will be closed, but normally it's about 30 minutes to arrival and 30 minutes to departure, and it shouldn't be 2 hours.
Okay, that's the exact same question I was going to ask, because it takes like 15 minutes for a plane to process and take off. So why up to 2 hours?
It shouldn't be 2 hours. It's 30 minutes.
So you don't think it's possible to close the airspace for 2 hours?
Yeah. Under emergency, priority should be given to emergency because lives are involved.
But do they give priority to emergencies? You say should, but do you normally, get concession for emergencies?
Yes, of course. Whenever anybody declares needy, the person should be given concession, knowing that lives are involved. But what happened to the Ghana plane is that he reported emergency, and after 1 minute, he crashed. So they didn't have enough time.
All right.
They didn't have enough time.
Okay, back to the investigations. You said hopefully it shouldn't take 1 year before the preliminary results come out. Yeah, maybe the conclusion of the report. But you know the way things are around here. A lot of times, government officials hoard information. Do you think should Nigerians suspect to get the report of these investigations when it does come out?
They should. And I want to say that the Honorable Minister of Aviation, she's very, very proactive. And I wouldn't want to think that she will hide any report. We need it because this accident has become one too many. This report needs to be released so that actions will be taken, so that corrective measures will be taken to ensure a safer airspace. We don't want to be losing our loved ones, our friends, our family, our colleagues. We don't want to lose business. So, yeah, certainly she is, I believe she's in the forefront to make sure that this report will be released as soon as possible so that corrective actions and measures will be taken.
Thank you for clearing to us that the initial response that the airspace was not cleared. Like I said, it was not closed. These were reports, making the rounds on the internet. And I know that people speculate a lot. People are grieving, and out of anger, a lot of, rumors are making the rounds, but that was why I needed to ask the question so we can clear
we should be very careful because we don't know the facts from the rumors. Many things have gone out, and we'll just speak on them and begin to catch on and begin to speak strongly. But it could all be rumors.
Fortunately, the presidency still has refuted that rumor.
That's true.
The First Lady didn't fly on Sunday, and the airspace was not closed.
And I think we're glad that you're here to actually put pressure on the truth, because some people might not understand that an airspace cannot be closed for 2 hours, because that would mean endangering both planes, in the airspace as well.
In case of an emergency.
Yes, in case of an emergency. Now, you're talking about concessions and, awarding compensation. Dana Air says it will compensate all the passengers that were involved in the air crash. Now, what are the provisions for a Nigerian passenger under the aviation rules? Do you have any idea?
Coming in terms of compensation?
Yes. Under the aviation policies, are they entitled, or is it based on insurance? How does this work?
It's based on insurance, yes, because the passengers are insured, the aircraft is insured. So when the aircraft is insured, it's insured with the passengers in them, so they will be compensated.
So do you see this happening in the near future, or, like Sana said, going to wait for the investigations to come out before the compensations meted out to the families of the deceased?
I wouldn't want to think it would take that long for compensation to be paid.
All right. We want to open our phone lines now, so you can call us and let us have your contributions. The number to call is 094625203. 094625203. Call in and let us have your contributions. So, madam, what would you say at this point in time? What steps should the aviation ministry and the regulatory agencies, what should they be doing as we speak to make sure that a situation like this never arises again?
The first step is the investigation, which is already taking place, and the Honorable Minister has come out and spoken and expressed her sympathy, apologized for what has happened, and has promised Nigerians that she's going to make sure that investigation is properly done and that recommendations are fully followed. So that is being put in place. And I believe NCA and every other professional is conscious of the impact of what has happened. So everybody's sitting up, making sure that any loose ends are properly tied up and that things are not, business should not be as usual. We need to step up security, safety we need to raise our standard of safety, because all of us are involved one way or the other. It is very, very painful.
All right. Looking back at the state of the emotional state of mind of Nigerians, everybody is afraid of flying right now. You know, as of yesterday, I know somebody that was going to travel, and somebody called and said, "How are you going?" So I was like, no, don't dare, go by road. Okay, if we go by road, I can as well have an accident by road as well as, you know, airborne. So right now, I think that winning back the faith of Nigerians is very essential. So what will be, in simple words, what could you tell Nigerians in regard to that? Because trust me, a Nigerian person will always put their life first.
I will say to them that it's unfortunate this has happened, but aviation still remains the safest means of transportation. Yeah, it happens, and when it happens, it's kind of tragic and it's painful, but by the time you add up and calculate the number of people on road or motor accidents vis-a-vis the number of people that die in the air, which we don't want to continue, you will realize that many more people die on our roads than people that die in the air. The ratio, I think, is maybe a ratio of 1 to 99 or so.
Okay, we have a caller coming in now. Sunday Galber is calling from Abuja. Good morning, Sunday. Good morning, Sunday. Good morning, Sunday. Good morning, Sunday.
I think we lost Sunday there.
All right, I think we lost Sunday there. All right, you were saying, madam, the more people are lost by road than on by air.
Yes. And it's the safest, is the fastest way. And there are a lot of checks and balances to ensure, and there's a lot of improvement, technological improvement, to ensure that air travel is as safe as possible. We are working at it. We are not there yet, but we are working at it, and we'll continue to push on. So I want to encourage the Nigerian populace to still have confidence in the air travel, in aviation, and I assure them that things are certainly going to improve for the better for all of us.
I just want to ask this question. Now, a lot has been said about the proficiency of the air hostesses and the air host people who man the plane, and one would wonder what sort of training that they get, especially in cases of emergency. You know, I once recalled that while I was in school, I wanted to work for Thomas Cook, and you had to know how to swim, speak a lot of languages, and do a whole lot of, the list was endless. You know, when it comes to Nigeria, what are the criteria for someone to be an air hostess, and what can they do in case of emergency? Because one, you get on the plane and they show you an emergency exit. So how does that apply? How does that work during cases such as this?
But Captain, just before you respond, we have Osita calling us from Port Harcourt. Osita, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Please go ahead with your contributions.
I'm a medical doctor. Okay, I'm a medical doctor in Port Harcourt.
Osita, please turn down the volume of your TV set.
A little crash. Yes. I'm a medical doctor in Port Harcourt, and I witnessed the Sosolito crash, and you know, more than 20 of the kids that died on the crash were known to me. We are still waiting to hear the report on the Sosolito crash, and we are being told that we should expect a report from this one anytime soon. That is very un-Nigerian. Again, I want to say something about the position of the captain on our people being qualified. Yes, they are qualified, but what about the work ethic? We all know that Nigerians are very good when they get out of the shores of this country. But as soon as they get down from the Murida Mohammed International Airport, we see a different gene at work. Don't you think that if we don't change our work ethic, no matter how well trained we are, as long as we're in Nigeria, things are never going to work? Thank you.
Thank you, Sita. Captain, you heard of Sita. Do you agree with him? First of all, he's asking the Sosoliso plane crash, the reports, the reports of that investigation is still not out as we speak, or no one knows. You know, even if it's out, it wasn't made public. Then secondly, qualification does not mean that people would have good work ethics. What's your take on that?
With the Sosoliso crash, the report, I want to say that the report, the investigation has been finished, and the report is in the process of being released. It's unfortunate that it has not been released up till now, but I've been in communication with the AIB commissioner, and he had told me that the report has been completed.
Almost 5 years, 5, 6 years
after. It is just following the process of being released. You know, when a report has been written, the AIB organization does not have the right to release it to the public like that. It has to follow a process. So it is that process that is being followed.
You know, that's the question we asked you earlier. What is the length of time for these processes? Because this is just showing us that we probably will be waiting for the reports of this investigation for another 6 years.
The temporary report will certainly be released before the end of the year. It is the full report, and a lot of things go into determining when the full report will be released. Because, you see, when an accident happens, you want to find the probable cause of that accident. It's like an investigation, maybe when somebody is killed and an investigator is investigating. It will take a while for the person to be able, at times it will take a very short time, other times it will take a very long time because of evidence and because he needs to get to the root of the matter and find out what has actually happened. The same thing with accident investigation.
I'll hold you on that frame of thought. Right now, Ali is calling from Abuja here. Good morning, Ali.
Ali, please turn down the volume of your TV set and then let us have your contribution.
Seems like we've lost Ali there. Okay. Ali, please try and call us back. We await your contribution, and it's very important to us. Back to you, madam. Now, you can't help when somebody calls and makes such, remarks, because they do not know about the processes, or they do not know the length of time. So for people like that, what message are you going to say to them? Are you going to say wait until the processes pass through, and how long does this process take?
I think because of this unfortunate incident, I believe the report will be released very soon. I wouldn't want to put a time to it, but I know it will be released very soon because they have finished the investigation. It's been concluded.
All right, back to the question I asked you.
Then the other question you were talking about are engineers. I want to say that it is these same engineers that have been servicing, clearing our aircraft for the past 6 years. So if the ethics are not there, then we'll be having plane crashes every day. It is there, and I said whenever an accident happens, there are a lot of things contributing to it. Let the investigation come out. There is problem with there could be some problem with the system. There could be the problem with maintenance. There could be problem with the pilots. There are so many things. There could be problem with the regulatory bodies. All this comes into play when an accident happens.
All right, Captain, let's take this call from Yedogwa. Paul, good morning. Hello, Paul. If you're there, let's have your contribution.
Seems like we've lost Paul there.
And it looks like the service network is not being friendly with us in the studio this morning. All right, so go ahead.
I think one of the questions I wanted to find answers to was the one in regards to the air hostesses and the air hosts and their training and what they're able to do in cases of emergency, especially when people have the idea that there are emergency exits. What really is that meant for?
Emergency exit is used when the aircraft has crash landed, and everything is in one piece, people are alive, then it will be deployed for people to get away from the aircraft as soon as possible.
So that I thought it was maybe mid-air, so because of situations like this, peradventure, the aircraft is nosediving and plunges into wherever it finds itself. I mean, is it possible that the doors to the aircraft could have been open and people could have used maybe the parachute supposedly available, that they could, jump out of the plane, if that is possible? Because I know someone who said there are no parachutes.
There are no parachutes.
Okay, I know someone who said that if they open the door and were close to, the ground, I may just jump out. And maybe, yes, I'll have some injuries, but I probably won't be dead.
No, the emergency exits are used when the aircraft has landed. It is not used in the mid-air, because when you begin to deploy them in mid-air, you could even lose control because of imbalance in pressure. You could lose control of the aircraft, and it will do more harm than good.
Thanks for clearing that up. I don't know if you came across this. There were also speculations, and that when the plane landed, like crash landed, it didn't. It didn't explode immediately. Now, was there anything that could have been done at that time to save anybody's life, considering where it landed or where it crashed?
Well, if it didn't explode immediately, it's possible for the cabin crew to deploy the emergency exit for people to get away. But it depends, because there must have been an impact. And were they in a state of shock? Were they conscious? Were they alive? These are some of the questions. I don't know if AIB will even be able to answer those questions.
All right. All right, Captain. Thank you so much for...
Okay, well, I just want to mention about the issue of cabin crew. The cabin crew go through this emergency training every 6 months. They rehearse it, they are tested on it to make sure that if it ever happens, because it hardly happens, but when it happens, they are ready and they will be able to do it. In our school back in Zaria, we have cabin crew training. We train them. Even now we are trying to buy a mock-up 737 aircraft to bring to Zaria so that they can have a live aircraft they can train with. In the past, we used to take them to Kaduna, to Chashangi Airline to do the training. We take them to Lagos to do the training. But we want to acquire even our own aircraft so that they could do it on ground. We have a swimming pool so that when the emergency exit is deployed, they can slide into the swimming pool to simulate down to earth possible situation to make sure that they are ready at any given time.
All right. Thank you.
But that is not to say that there is no room for the aviation industry to improve. We need to improve. We need to reduce and, if possible, eradicate or cut off all this problem of accidents. It is one too many.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Captain. Captain Mrs. Chinyere Kalu, MFR, Rector, Nigerian College of Aviation Technology and CAT, first female pilot. Thank you for coming to Kaakaki this morning. It was an honor having you here. And of course, you out there that have called us, Michael, Liu, and people that couldn't get through. We thank you for even trying. And maybe perhaps you can try later on tomorrow, same time for another segment. This is Kaakaki, the African Voice. Coming up next is Pan Africa. Please stay with us.
Dear Mom, what you do today can create a better tomorrow.
The Biki Olatilo Show, BOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the legal year, the beginning of the legal year, but a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Time now for Pan-African World. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir has accused officials of stealing at least $4 billion from state resources. He has written to 75 current and former senior government employees asking for the unaccounted money to be returned. The information minister said that about $60 million has been recovered since the letters were sent out last month. The new nation is desperately in need of funds after its oil production, which accounts for 98% of revenue, was shut down in an argument with Sudan. In a letter dated May 3rd and reportedly sent sometime in the last 10 days, President Kiir wrote, "People in South Sudan are suffering, and yet some government officials simply care about themselves." The president also said, corrupt individuals with close ties to government officials were involved in stealing the missing billions. South Sudan seceded from Sudan to form the world's newest nation just July. The office of the First Lady has debunked news making the rounds that the Dana plane crashed because the airspace was closed for the movement of the President's wife in Lagos. A statement signed by the Special Assistant to the Office of the First Lady, Ayo Osilu, described as callous, inhuman, and devilish for anyone to have thought of wrapping such national calamity in political garb by insinuating that the plane crashed due to the closure of the airspace for VIP movements involving the First Lady. The statement said that for the avoidance of doubt, the First Lady arrived Lagos at about 2 p.m. on Saturday, June 2nd for a private engagement and was billed to leave for Abuja on Monday, June 4th. According to Osilu, this is the time for all Nigerians to be sober and pray for the repose of the souls of the victims, and not a time to subordinate the interest of the nation to narrow, self-serving interests. Former Governor Timipre Silva was arraigned before the Federal High Court in Abuja on Tuesday on a 6-count charge. The court ordered Silva to be remanded in EFCC custody till Thursday, June 7, when it will rule on his bail application. Silva, who has been under the EFCC trail since his ouster from office in April, pleaded not guilty to 6-count charge bordering on corruption committed while serving as governor of Bayelsa State. Unknown gunmen have shot and killed retired Deputy Inspector General of Police Abubakar Sali Ningi in Kano. Reports say the retired police boss was shot and killed in a Hilux van by men on a speeding motorcycle. All the occupants of the van, including Ningi's driver, his orderly, and a friend, were killed in the attack. Deputy Inspector General of Police Ningi retired only in January after the appointment of Muhammad Abubakar as acting Inspector General of Police. Until his retirement, Ningi was DIG Works Department at the police headquarters in Abuja. That's Pan-African World. Coming up next is newspaper reviews, and Adora is standing by to take us through the major headlines in the dailies. Stay with us.
govern out of anger or yield to the politics of the moment.
Still a very good morning to you, and of course you know this is still Kaakaki, the African Voice. It's now time for us to look at the newspapers this morning and see what they are thriving with. To start with National Mirror. National Mirror still talking about Dana Air, says federal government grounds Dana Air, and that is the major headline story making it in the National Mirror this morning. Above that masthead we have alleged 2 billion naira fraud, ex-Governor Silva docked, remanded in EFCC custody, and that is coming from National Mirror. National Report still talking about Dana, says federal government grounds Dana Airlines indefinitely, and of course we have another headline story going there. EFCC docked Silva over 2 billion naira salary scam. People's Daily, Senate wants sacked, and that is coming from People's Daily as federal government revokes Dana Air's license, and that is People's Daily's daily dose this morning. The Road newspaper still talking about the crash, says Dana crash, victims' relations to get 15 million naira each. Victims' relations to get 50 million naira each. Dana Air grounded. Senate wants DG of NCAA out. And of course we have another headliner there. Presidency condemns politicizing the Dana calamity. Is coming from that on masthead on the Road. You see have ex-Governor Silva nabbed and denied bill coming on the Road newspaper. Leadership is still thriving with another story, but from a different point of view. Dana, last moments with my daughter Hajia Tayyiba, and that is coming from Leadership newspaper. Major headline story there still reads Dana, Indian senior managers flee Nigeria. With the riders going on as epidemic looms at crash site, the place will be fumigated. FG suspend airlines license in U.S. condones with Nigeria. More bodies recovered, and that is coming on after Boko Haram is negotiating with federal government, and that is by Dahiru Bauchi. Gunmen kill ex-DIG Ningi in Kano. I didn't cause Dana air crash, says, and that is coming from the First Lady as regards to speculations over the internet. We have another interesting headline saying 16 killed in JTF Boko Haram shootout, and that is coming in the Blueprint newspaper. Daily Sun, lucky escape. Passenger who flew ill-fated plane to Abuja hours before crashes narrates ordeal, and that is coming on Daily Sun newspaper, with the rider saying, I wept seeing burnt bodies of my neighbors. Daily Trust, let's see what they are trusting us with this morning. Boko Haram issues of security. We are talking on federal government's behalf, and that is coming from Daily Trust. Nigerian pilot is looking at Masob, says bloodbath in Onitsha. Operators raid Masob, 16 people killed. Now, of course, we cannot do this. I cannot do this all by myself. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to get a most honored person in the person of the in-house analyst, Victor. Mr. Victor Ayob, you're welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to Newspaper Review this morning. So let's start with Nigerian pilot, bloodbath in Indonesia, and talking about Masob, saying operatives raid Masob, 16 killed.
In fact, if anything can be done to reduce the number of deaths, to reduce the number of Nigerian deaths, it should be done. This is a very painful, very diversionary thing. There are problems facing the country that should be faced, and not all these militant groups. No matter how good the case may be, the cause may be, dying is a different ballgame. Killing is a different ballgame.
Yes, and it's a sad thing, considering what the country is going through now. We have too many issues in our hands to be actually focusing on such a thing. But you know, it's coming from Nigerian pilots, and that means as a headline story, it has some level of importance.
Exactly.
All right, let's look at daily trust. Boko Haram. Finally, say we are talking on federal government behalf. What does this story mean to you? What's the insight?
We say thank God. That's a big move forward, a very positive step forward. If they can sit down with the powers that be, with the federal government, and talk peace. That's all we had wanted. Everybody had been calling for. We are one, whether we are Christians or Muslims, Northerners or Southerners. We are one. We are so woven together that we keep saying it, nothing can tear us apart. Not even Boko Haram can tear us apart.
And, you know, according to this report, that some of the members of the committee, membership includes former Secretary to the federal government, Alhaji Aminu Saleh, who is also linked to the presidency through Dr. Hassan Chuka.
These are very reputable Nigerians, very well-meaning Nigerians. And we hope and pray that this time around some good will come from
some good
from the
light of the tunnel, hopefully bright enough light. Now let's look at Daily Sun and see how funny today is. Lucky escape coming from one of the victims of Dana aircraft. Says passenger who flew ill-fated plane to Abuja hours before narrates an ordeal. And she said, I wept seeing burnt bodies of my neighbors. Relations besieged mortuary as hospital insist on autopsy.
When accidents like this happen, there must be stories to tell. Somebody who either missed boarding the aircraft or who had flown it before it started on the next journey. There must be stories, narrow escapes, lucky escapes. Stories must have happened, which will be told, and they are painful when you look back.
Well, some people worry. No, it's not a case of lucky or unlucky. It's just unfortunate that those people were part of it. But
some would say destiny.
Yes, destiny. But I thank God for that she's a survivor. She can tell us how inside of the story.
May their souls all rest in peace once again. We can never tire of praying for them.
May their soul rest in perfect peace, perfect. Now let's go to Blueprint. I didn't cause Dana air crash. You know, throughout yesterday, there were speculations over the net and over some networks that the First Lady's plane, supposedly that was supposed to land in Lagos, caused some sort of air traffic, like bordering in the airspace for 2 hours, and which is absolutely not doable.
That would be uncharitable, you know, very, very uncharitable. First Lady, in fact, it had nothing to do with the engine of the crashed Dana.
It is not even true.
Airline. It can't be true. I'm also saying that it is also uncharitable to make that kind of
allegations.
Yes, you know, it's not fair. It's not fair because the Dana aircraft could have flown back
to Lagos
if the engines were okay and everything was okay. Could have flown back to the nearest airport. An accident was an accident. People should stop.
I think, you know, Victor, looking at the emotional state of mind of people, they are looking for someone to blame and someone to actually say this is the reason.
To nail.
Yes, and so you would wonder, you know, why every possible attempt to fish out the culprit is made. But I'm happy because we did have a guest that said that no plane can hang or bother in the airspace for over 30 minutes.
Imagine that.
So another interesting thing is about the Dana account. CBN freezes Dana accounts. Dana's account, the federal government suspends license. What do you make of this?
Nothing is too much. Nothing is too harsh with the mood of the nation and allegations flying in the air. Stories flying in the air.
Yes.
Whatever the federal government does for now is okay. If after the investigation Dana Air is found not culpable, all these things can be returned damages done can be repaired. They are repairable anyway. But lives that have been lost are not retrievable.
Indeed. Just talking about the crash and looking at the case of insecurity, we also have 16 killed in JTF, the Joint Task Force, and government suspected to be members suspected Boko Haram in a crowded part of Maiduguri SD were involved in a gun shooting. Say 15 killed in the Boko Haram shootout. So what do you make of this, especially at a time when we're supposed to be dialoguing?
It gets worse before it gets better. Let's hope that is what is happening.
Okay.
That situations will get suddenly worse. Then we spring up and everything gets better. Maiduguri is fast becoming another Baghdad.
Yes. Rightly called. Somebody called that even over the international web. It's called becoming another Baghdad. Now, let's look at Kano. It says retired DIG, 2 others shot dead in Kano State.
Another unnecessary waste of life.
Yeah.
Unnecessary waste of trained manpower. DIGs have passed through the police force and have gone through all kinds of training, and so long as they are alive, they are valuable to this country, even if out of their opinions or if they are called back from retirement to do certain things, they are valuable. It's a waste of very, very experienced manpower.
Could it be because they're members of law enforcement agents, so they could be target of this?
Okay, they just become the insignia of the federal government and all that. That's unfair. It's still unfair.
That is taking the bull by the feet, if you ask me. Now let's look at leadership and see what they're leading with. Dana, last moments with my daughter. That is coming from Hajiet Saiba, and it's
heart-rending stories. They must occur. They must come up when things like this happen. Of this magnitude.
Very sad, because I actually saw some pictures of the air hostesses before the border, their last messages. It's a pity. We cannot.
Full of life, good-looking ladies.
Honestly.
Full of life.
Honestly, we cannot solve this issue enough. Well, another major headline story: Dana, Indian senior managers flee Nigeria. Says epidemic looms at crash site, and the place will be fumigated. Says LASG NEMA, and federal government suspend airlines license, which is Dana aircraft. And we have United States condoles with Nigeria, and more bodies recovered. Now, what do you make of this story, especially coming from coming as the headline: Indian senior managers flee Nigeria? Now, that sounds a little...
I think for them, it is a commonsensical thing to do, given the mood of Nigerians and the stories flying around of sharp practices, cutting of corners, managing, quote and unquote, parts of aircraft and all that. If I were in these shoes, if I found a way to flee the country,
you would do the
I would.
Mr. Victor. Okay, now that is interesting coming from you. Now, I would want to ask you this question. How does that help the investigation that is ongoing? Because they would need to be asked some questions, they would need to be involved. So how does that help?
Even their fleeing will not help them, because we have enough bilateral relations with India. No matter how you fly, you will still come back. There is this African saying of one insect: no matter how high it flies, it will fall for the frog to eat it. No matter how long and far away they run, the arms of the law, if they are culpable, will still catch them.
So in other words, you're saying you can run, but you can't
hide.
Okay, no problem. Well said. All right, let's look below that bastard. We have, EFCC Doc Silva, over 2 billion naira fraud, remanded in custody. Who would think that there will be a day such as this? It's interesting because there's a lot of commentations on this.
Such days will always come. When people are in power. I'm not saying that Silva is guilty. He is presumed innocent until the EFCC nails him with something. But all I am saying is that generally, when people are in power, they forget that a payback day will come.
Yes. There's always a time to pay back.
Exactly.
I hope that augurs on for other leaders who have been found.
Generally, I'm not talking about silver.
Yeah, not just one person. Now let's look at the Road newspaper talking about compensation here. Dana crash victims' relations to get 15 million naira each. And of course, we see the rider saying Dana Air grounded, Senate wants ZG of NCAA out. Now let's focus on that before we look at the presidency story. Now, 50 million naira, some would say, is that enough? Does that equate to a life, you know?
Nothing in naira and kobo will be the equivalent of any life. The joy that money will give. We just saw the woman Taibata.
Yes.
The joy that money will give can never be equal to the joy that a human being, a child, a husband, a brother, a sister, an aunt, whatever, a good friend can give you through life. Money is too ephemeral, too temporary. It comes and it goes. So generally speaking, no amount of money equates a human life.
You know, looking at that, the summary of that amount is 2.3 billion naira. That's a lot of money, you know, and, you know, categorically states that it's 15.6 million for each, you know, family with deceased. Now, you know, you look at that money and some would argue that it's not enough or it does not equate the life. But still, isn't it commendable that at least it has gone into actually... Yes.
And for those who lost 7 lives, for the family that lost 7 lives, it will be 7 times 15. But I don't think it will give them joy all the same. It won't make them happy. 7 times 15 million naira. The surviving member of that family will say, go with the money, bring me back 7 live members of my family. Yes. Money can never equate life.
That would be almost 75 million naira. Well, like you said, the money will come and go, but the life will never return. But anyway...
the shock, the trauma, the dreams.
Yeah.
You wake up with a start and it's unthinkable.
Indeed. But well, we think it's a train in the right soil and actually a step in the right course.
Exactly, it is.
It's a step in the right course. All right, presidency condemns politicizing the Dana calamity. Now that is interesting.
Yes,
a lot has been said about this. You know, the presidency has condemned what it describes as orchestral plan to politicize the Sunday Dana aircraft.
Yes,
you know,
by linking it.
Yes.
To the First Lady, which I have said is unfair, it's uncharitable, it's not even provable, like you said. It doesn't make
sense. All right, let's leave that and go over to just at the extreme right of that, below the masthead, you have Dana crash, Hillary Clinton between condole Jonathan, and that is coming from the United States government as they condole with the president on the loss of life.
You see, such things become so painful, and the president yesterday just shows that he is a human being.
Yeah.
And when generals feel that way, when warriors weep, that is when they are most dangerous. A sensible opponent will run.
You will tell me your experience. All right. Okay, let's look into People's Daily. It said Senate wants the Murin sacked as federal government revokes Dana Air's license. Now, a lot has been said that it's not his fault. He didn't fly the plane, but he is in charge of supervising and making sure that the plane was airworthy. So, what do you make of the story? To be or not to be?
Again, until proven guilty, after the investigations, nobody should nail or crucify Demoret. It's just part of the stories that have been flying around generally in the country of improper deals, improper things being done in the aviation industry, of which he is a key part. But until such stories, such allegations, such rumors are proven to be concrete facts, Demoret
the government suspending indefinitely Dana's license, does that mean anything? Would it help?
Yes, I said earlier that whatever tough action government takes now with the mood of the nation and facts on the ground, I think it's proper.
Right. Okay, National Accord is still going with the same story. Says federal government grounds Dana Airlines indefinitely. 150 bodies recovered so far. And of course, we have below that masthead EFCC Doc Silver over 2 billion naira salary scam, which is what we have discussed. You know, for some people say this is a relief to a lot of people in the Niger Delta and all. And I worry because, you know, it shows that somebody made a statement, said the patient dog is the fattest bone, and someone argued and said, I don't want to wait to eat the bone, now we wait to eat the meat, then you can eat the bone.
Sometimes the patient dog eats nothing.
It's nothing at all. It's nothing at all. So I think this is a relief. You know, I think this is a relief. So what do you think? If he's found guilty, the law
of course, the full weight of the law should speak. Like I said, there's always a payback day for people who stay in power and play God. Small letter G, God.
Okay.
There's always a payback day. I'm not saying that that is the case with Silva. He's innocent until the EFCC proves him guilty.
Guilty. All right. Some argue that this was a case of witch hunting, but a lot will argue that no, it's politics, and others will say no, the law is taking its course. So which of the three will it be? A combination of the three?
We'll watch and see.
I will not take the words out of your mouth. Permit me not to. All right, let's look at National Mirror. National Mirror, we will look at federal government grounds Dana Air. 2 failed engines leaking hydraulics caused crash, and UK insurer arrives. And that is continued on page 6. Now, let's look at that rider. 2 failed engines leaking hydraulics caused crash. Now, we usually have engineers check the thing before it takes flight. So why would this be the fault?
That is why somebody like Demoran, the senator, said, step aside. He's not guilty yet until he's proven guilty. All actors within the aviation industry in Nigeria, a lot of them should not take part in the investigations, you know, so that they don't compromise the outcome of the investigations. Now, 2 failed engines. If this is true, if it is true, then the First Lady didn't put off these 2 engines, for instance. That again speaks for the First Lady.
Indeed.
I have no hands.
Indeed.
I did not cause the crash.
Now let's look at the insert picture of that man with his property, I think most of it, in that clothed duvet. He says a resident of Iju, Ishaga. Ishaga affected by the plane crash parking out yesterday, and that's to tell you that it's not only those that were on board that were affected.
Of course,
people were lost
lives on ground, and it has to be so. In fact, somebody put it one very succinct way. How can aeroplane jam motor? You see the irony? Aeroplane up there, how would it start jamming houses and cars, whatever was in its path, you know? And you remember the one in Ghana, Kotoka International Airport. They overshot the runway because of water on the runway. The plane overshot the runway and hit the vehicle.
Now, looking at this, you know, the displacement of the residents and some people who died on land, does the compensation include?
It should. In fairness, it should. It costs the deaths. It costs the damages to houses, to property. So, in fairness, I think it should.
All right. We hope so. We do hope so. And maybe it will depend on the Lagos state government as well. I think they would have to roll out that.
Good for Peter, should be good for